Woo! Justin Baldoni's lawyers just clapped back against Blake Lively's lies in the most respectful yet spiciest filings I've read yet.
They weren't being silenced. Their content wasn't being questioned. Their content wasn't being collected, except for a few on TikTok. I believe there were 6 that were subpoenaed and parts of their content were being asked for whatever reason.
The footnote wasn't supposed to be the headline, but that's where everything unraveled. In a formal response to Blake Lively's latest motion, Justin Baldoni's legal team inserted a single sentence buried halfway down the page that quietly detonated Lively's entire defense. "We are unclear why Miss Lively refers to her deposition transcript as a rough draft," it read. Given that the document is not marked as rough, as such versions of transcripts traditionally are.
Again, they weren't in any trouble. They weren't even really being subpoenaed. It was a social media app that was being subpoenaed, and they were a part of it for basic information. Not one of those content creators needed to spend a penny on this situation. They didn't need to fight this subpoena. What is the point of fighting the subpoena when only your basic information is going to Blake Lively's legal team to help her litigation?
Sources say that line was more than legal housekeeping. It was a scalpel, cutting through the idea that Lively's sworn testimony could be casually dismissed, reframed, or sealed away. It wasn't just about terminology. According to multiple legal analysts, it was the clearest sign yet that Baldoni's team had shifted their strategy from quiet defense to public counterattack. And they weren't just defending him anymore, they were going after what they allege is a carefully constructed narrative, one that they claim Blake Lively can't back up under oath. But how did we get here? According to filings, this all began with a deposition, 292 pages long, taken under court order. Lively's team, citing privacy concerns, filed a protective order to seal the transcript. But when Baldoni's side attached it to a letter challenging her claims of a smear campaign, the game changed. That transcript became the evidence trail, one that Lively's attorneys argued should never have seen the light of day, even if it was sealed. But here's the twist. The document wasn't leaked, it wasn't published, it wasn't even referenced in the press, until, according to sources, Lively's own team made it a headline by accusing Baldoni's side of waging a media war.
Now, this then prompted a bunch of PR, seemingly from Blake's side. Oh, look, he's shaming us. He's putting this out there. How dare they? This is this is about a media campaign. Meanwhile, it's Blake who's clearly speaking to the media and painting this as a victim of Justin's actions, which this is all just legal actions that they're allowed to do.
Insiders say that was a turning point, because once they did that, the court and the public wanted to know, what exactly was she trying to hide? And why call it a rough draft if it wasn't? That's when Baldoni's lawyers made their move, not with press releases or leaks, but with a formal, calmly worded, footnoted dismantling of her claims. And that brings us to the filings this week, which, according to multiple reports, just flipped the case on its head. Sources close to the case say the energy in the courtroom shifted the moment Baldoni's legal team began citing Judge Lyman's own rulings directly back at him. It wasn't just a tactical move, it was a message, one that said, "We're not here to play media games, we're here to play by the book and call out those who don't." According to legal insiders reviewing the documents, Fritz, representing Baldoni, and the Wayfair defendants meticulously argued that Lively's attempt to strike the transcript had no legal standing. Rule 12 does not authorize this court to strike documents other than pleadings, the filing states. That's legal speak for, you can't just erase inconvenient facts, especially not when they're your own sworn words. And then, in what commentators are calling a legal masterstroke, Fritz backed it all with 2 separate rulings authored by Judge Lyman himself, creating a trap Lively's team never saw coming.
So he's making it clear, this is not a draft. This means Lively's statements are true. These are accurate transcripts. That's what they submitted. Let's continue. Miss Lively frames her argument as a motion to strike pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12.5 in the court's inherent power. However, Rule 12 does not authorize this court to strike documents other than pleadings.
As one source put it, they didn't just follow the rules. They used the judge's own words to build the rules around Blake. But here's where things really start to twist. According to reports, Lively's team then argued that Baldoni's side was trying to shame her by using her own deposition to fuel what she framed as a smear campaign. That's when Fritz's filing turned surgical. He pointed out line by line that not only was the transcript legally filed under seal, but that Blake Lively had the right and the option to keep it sealed permanently. She just hadn't. And while her lawyers accused Baldoni's camp of leaking to the media, The filing directly challenges that claim. Miss Lively does not cite any evidence, it reads. That is not surprising, as there is none. But then came the moment that caught everyone off guard. The filing didn't just deny the leak, it raised the possibility that the leak could have come from Lively's own camp, her legal team, her husband, even the catering staff present during her deposition. And while they didn't make a direct accusation, the implication was clear. If this information reached the media, sources say it wasn't necessarily from Baldoni's side, and Lively should stop acting like it was. That's when this quiet legal battle turned into what some commentators are now calling a courtroom chess match with knives.
He then cites 2 of Lyman's own cases as authority on this point, which is just brilliant. When you can do that, you absolutely do that to remind the judge, you know this is what this is. Further, Miss Lively does not contend to the deposition transcript contained abusive, improper, or libelous materials, which might warrant the court's exercise of its inherent power.
Every motion, every paragraph, every quote from the judge's past rulings is being wielded with deliberate precision. Because this isn't just about what's on the record anymore, it's about who controls the narrative. And as one insider close to the filing told us, Baldoni's team just flipped Blake's story on its head without ever raising their voice. The question now isn't whether Blake Lively can prove she's being smeared. It's whether, according to court records, her own legal tactics just made the opposite case for her. According to multiple legal insiders, the most brutal line in the entire filing wasn't about procedure or precedent. It was about intention. In one calm but cutting paragraph, Baldoni's lawyers wrote, "It is puzzling why Miss Lively seeks to conceal her own testimony in an action in which she is the plaintiff." And just like that, the courtroom lights seemed to flip, because what they were implying, without saying it outright, was that Blake Lively didn't want the public to see what she'd already said under oath. Not because it was legally sensitive, but because it may not have supported her claims. That's a major escalation, and sources close to the case say it's shaken Lively's media strategy, which has, until now, leaned on framing Baldoni as a figure operating in secrecy and retaliation. But this filing turns the mirror around. Why, the lawyers ask, would someone leading the charge for justice be afraid of their own voice, in their own words? That question becomes even more loaded when you follow the filing's footnotes, because according to insiders, they don't just cite precedent, they paint a pattern. Fritz systematically dismantles Lively's core argument that the deposition was filed to humiliate her by pointing out that she was the one who requested it be held in her preferred law office, that she brought the people, that she selected the location, that she controlled the setting. In essence, the defense is building a case that Blake Lively curated the experience and is now upset with the outcome. But here's the part that sources say sent shockwaves through both camps: the subtle accusation that Blake, not Baldoni, may be responsible for the leak. While the filing stops short of naming names, it opens the floodgates. Her legal staff, her husband, her media contacts, even the catering team. If anyone leaked the sealed transcript to the press, which set off a frenzy of headlines and public sympathy, then by process of elimination, the trail points inward. That narrative shift is massive. Because now, instead of Baldoni being on the defensive, sources suggest Lively's team is racing to seal the transcript permanently, a move that, according to legal commentators, looks like damage control. And all of this, remember, stems from Blake's own decision to file a motion to strike the transcript in the first place. That motion, her team claimed, was about protecting her rights. But now it's become the reason the contents of that deposition and her handling of it are under intense scrutiny. As one legal expert bluntly put it, she cracked the door open, Baldoni's team just walked right through. With the judge expected to rule on the sealing motion soon, the next move may determine who wins the legal battle and who loses the public one. Insiders claim the tension behind closed doors reached a boiling point when Blake Lively's legal team submitted what one source called a gratuitous letter to the judge, a move that caught even seasoned courtroom observers off guard. It wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a warning shot, accusing Baldoni's lawyers of filing the transcript to shame Lively and drive a narrative she allegedly couldn't control. But in their response, Baldoni's team didn't flinch. They didn't lash out. Instead, they delivered a surgical dismantling of that claim, citing not only legal precedent, but Lively's own procedural choices as evidence against her. Miss Lively invited a response that would include evidence, the filing read, and that evidence is her own words. It was the calmest, most devastating statement in the document, one that reframed Blake not as the victim of a smear campaign, but as the orchestrator of a legal and media maneuver that may have backfired completely. And it gets even more brutal. According to reports, Baldoni's lawyers didn't just argue their point, they effectively accused Lively's team of trying to silence facts by disguising strategy as procedure. Her motion to strike, they argued, wasn't actually about legal protocol, it was about optics. The team claimed Lively had introduced off-record arguments under the guise of a formal filing, then acted outraged when Baldoni's team responded with actual evidence. And the evidence? The sealed deposition. Not leaked, not published, just attached to the court record, exactly as allowed. Multiple legal commentators now say this strategy, raising alarm over a filing that followed court rules, is starting to look like a miscalculation. Because in trying to control the story, sources say Lively may have highlighted the one thing she wanted buried, her own testimony. But here's the most stunning twist. In the final paragraph of the filing, Baldoni's attorneys flipped the entire framing of the case. According to them, Blake Lively wasn't just reacting to a media smear, she was shaping it. The suggestion is subtle but clear, that by publicly accusing Baldoni of media manipulation and simultaneously working with outlets to share her version of events, she created the very PR firestorm she claimed to be suffering from. And now, insiders say her attempt to strike the record isn't about justice, it's about erasing the piece of evidence that doesn't support her version. One lawyer reviewing the case called it reputation damage control masquerading as a legal strategy. Another called it Hollywood PR games dragged into federal court. Either way, this filing marks a turning point. Because for the first time, Justin Baldoni's team isn't just defending his reputation, they're going on offense. And they're doing it with footnotes, filings, and, as one source put it, the quiet power of the truth under oath. According to court insiders, the fallout from this filing was immediate. Behind the scenes, Lively's legal team reportedly scrambled to contain what one entertainment lawyer described as a procedural ambush disguised as a polite memo. Multiple sources close to the case confirm that Blake's lawyers are now preparing a fresh motion to permanently seal the transcript, one that, if granted, would remove the document entirely from public view. But here's the problem. By filing that motion, they may be confirming exactly what Baldoni's team implied, that the testimony, in its full and final form, contradicts the narrative Lively has worked so hard to maintain. One Hollywood publicist, speaking anonymously, put it this way: "If she wasn't worried about what's in that transcript, we wouldn't be here right now." And now that Baldoni's lawyers have made it clear they're playing a long game, one based not on headlines, but on legal ground, they've reset the entire public perception of the case. And let's not forget the broader implications. Sources say this courtroom clash is no longer just a defamation case. It's become a cautionary tale for celebrities who mix public campaigns with private lawsuits. Lively's claim of being targeted by a smear campaign was powerful, emotional, compelling. But now, with her own deposition at the center of the storm, that narrative is collapsing under scrutiny. Even supporters are beginning to ask hard questions. Why refer to a final transcript as a draft? Why strike your own testimony? Why accuse someone of leaking information that was never actually released? These aren't minor details, they're the very foundation of public trust. And once that cracks, the rest follows fast. PR insiders suggest that if the court denies Lively's motion to seal the transcript permanently, the full testimony could become a matter of record, one that potentially contradicts her prior public statements. If that happens, according to entertainment lawyers watching closely, the damage could be more reputational than legal, and that's a cost no celebrity wants to pay. So where does this go from here? Sources close to the filing say Baldoni's team is content to let the legal process play out. Quietly, methodically, on the record. They've made their point, and for now, they're letting the documents speak louder than headlines. But insiders also hint that if Lively continues her public campaign, Baldoni's lawyers are prepared to escalate, armed with filings, footnotes, and what they believe to be the full truth under oath. As one legal expert put it, this isn't about celebrity gossip anymore. It's about who owns the story and whether the facts support it. The next hearing could determine whether Blake Lively's testimony stays sealed or whether it becomes the very evidence that ends her version of events. That's the tea on Justin Baldoni's legal clapback. What do you think is hiding in Blake's sealed transcript? Drop your theories in the comments, smash that like button if this shocked you, and don't forget to subscribe for more Hollywood courtroom drama. Click here to uncover another celebrity scandal where the receipts couldn't be buried.